Hello, I'm Alberta Brown with Ron Gossett, and we're here at the Cinema Carousel in Muskegon. We're your hosts for Muskegon Heritage. This is the first in a series of documentaries on the rich, layered heritage of the people of Muskegon County.
We'll be looking at a history of challenge and of struggle, the history of Muskegon in all its diversity, coming together for the tough, rewarding task of forming a community. It's been an eventful time. It's been an exhilarating ride.
We begin with the story of how we have told our story, on stage and on screen. This is Muskegon's heritage.
The roll call. Harry Morgan, Pat Paulson, Buster Keaton. Names that strike a chord, that resonates across the continent. But they draw their inspiration from Muskegon, Michigan. The roll call tells us all we need to know. B.B. King, Rita Moreno, Itzhak Perlman, Noel Harrison, Ray Charles, Vicki Lawrence, Buddy Rich, Marcel Marceau. For the past 100 years, something has drawn the world's best-known performers to Muskegon's stages. And now, with the 21st century on the horizon, something keeps them coming. From Act One, it has been a powerful romance, Muskegon and theater. From the beginning, this community on the lake, which shaped its first fortunes from lumber and sawdust, had an affinity for entertainment on stage. It still does. It stems from not only a hunger for entertainment, but a deep passion for the performing arts. This is a community that thirsts for applause, from the stage and from the audience. When there is this kind of passion for theater, a community responds. It becomes more than just a voracious consumer for stage and screen. It becomes a wellspring of talent. When you talk about theater in Muskegon, you're not just talking about the touring company or summer stock. You're talking about community theater. You're talking children's theater. In Muskegon, theater comes home with you. It goes to school. It even goes to church. And in our many-faceted culture, there it finds a distinctive voice.
A lot of the cultural experiences were garnered around the church. That's where people learned to sing and were able to showcase their talents. Many people that you did not see throughout the week, you saw at church. So that was the gathering place, that was the meeting place, that was the one place that everyone could go. It was a safe haven.
Even in the late 19th century, when Muskegon, riding a lumber boom, had more millionaires per capita than any other community in the United States, even then, it wasn't enough to build yourself a mansion and shut yourself inside. The ongoing drama of everyday struggle was reflected in the drama in theater. There was a blurring of boundaries between stage and life. It was too good to keep to yourself, this tragic comic drama that was Muskegon. You had to see it, hear it, talk it over with your neighbors. You had to congregate. In Muskegon, community meant shared experience. It meant theater. It still does. In a community where the lumber trade is now just a memory and where industry and tourism now pay the bills, theater still provides that common frame of reference. It still creates that vital link. From the very beginning, there was something about theater that drew Muskegon out. At the same time, there was something about Muskegon that brought in the stars. In the 1870s, with the Civil War still a raw memory, theater was the community's remedy for one of its social ills. To combat the lure of demon rum and draw the men out of the saloons, community leaders built the Opera House. Lawrence Barrett, Madame Yanuchik, and Thomas W. Keane came to town. Actors who dominated their century the way Hepburn, Olivier, and Streep dominate ours. They and others brought Shakespearean tragedies, Gothic melodrama, and burlesque farce, and Muskegon residents devoured it all. Then came the introduction of Edison's newfangled invention, the moving picture. Here was another reason to get out and meet with your neighbors. It wasn't just the Opera House now. Theaters began cropping up all over the city's downtown, many within shouting distance of each other. The Regent, the Rialto, the Jefferson, the Strand. There was no revisit of the knockdown struggle against whiskey. In some cases, saloon and theater simply ignored each other. Eventually, there would even come a time when they could peacefully coexist. There was something else going on. The passing of the torch from the vaudeville stage to the moving picture screen. The importance of the transition was underlined in the first decade of the 20th century in a neighborhood called Bluffton and a loose-knit group called the Actors Colony.
In this building, we rode with Tom Mix. We laughed at Charlie Chaplin here, and we fell in love with Betty Boop. For 15 cents, you could enter a darkened theater and lose yourself in the images that danced across the screen.
We came here to get away from it all, to shake away the worries of the Great Depression, and to outlast the terror of the thunder of World War II.
This is the Harbor Theater. It's a small movie house in Muskegon's lakeside neighborhood. Since 1921, it has survived fire, fashion, and the march of time.
It's one of the oldest operating movie theaters in the United States, and it too is a part of Muskegon's heritage.
It was the seductive appeal of the Lake Michigan shore that brought them there. A group of jugglers, singers, dancers, comedians, and other vaudeville performers. It was a shoreline and a new, spacious structure called the Lake Michigan Park Theater that lured the vaudeville summer circuit to Muskegon. The Bluffton neighborhood was the ideal attraction with its summer cottages and its proximity to the lake. It was the final stop on the streetcar line. Among the headliners were the three Keatons, Joe, Myra, and their young son, Joe Jr. They spent most of the year on the road, but they spent their summers in Muskegon. Joe Keaton was not only an entertainer, he was a man who knew a financial opportunity when he saw it.
Of course, at the turn of the century, the Muskegon area was a resort town. It was a place where people from Chicago came to relax and enjoy the summer. And I found it fascinating that an actors group would locate here. It was probably about making money. Joe Keaton, a businessman, saw an opportunity, and I think he came up with a great marketing concept is really what it came down to. He hit the road and started talking up the city of Muskegon and said, boy, found a little slice of paradise here.
But for Joe Jr., the kid who in the family act was billed as Buster, it wasn't about money. It was about having a place where he didn't have to be on stage, but could just be himself.
Well, it was their summer home. They were on the road, you know, all from Labor Day to June, and this was home. They couldn't wait to get here, to Bluffton.
They weren't just entertainers any more than the rest of us are just doctors or teachers or factory workers or accountants. They were families. They were trusted friends. They were people who valued community. And some of them, like Joe Keaton, were rabid baseball fans. Joe was a starting pitcher on the Actors Colony baseball team, and Buster was a star player. But Buster's future wasn't on the baseball diamond. It was on the silver screen. He proved to be a comic genius, an artist for the ages. And for someone as creative as Buster, it only made sense. When he went to Hollywood to tackle the young movie industry, part of Muskegon went with him.
We know that his ties to Muskegon show up in his films. There was a boat that was here from theatrical agents from Chicago called the Damfino. He brought that from Muskegon. That was not a creation of Hollywood. That's from his childhood. That's autobiographical. In this film, the boat, Buster builds a boat in his basement. He christens the boat the Damfino and launches it into the water with his family. They go out sailing, and he goes through a series of jokes and skits in the film. It's a short film. At the end of it, the boat is sinking, and Buster radios for help. And they ask him, what is the name of the vessel? And he says, Damfino. And the person that receives the message says, well, I can't help you, basically is what he's saying, if you don't know the name of the boat. And that's the joke that is used in the film.
For Muskegon, Keaton's success was mixed blessing. But being a movie star, even a silent movie star, meant some significant life changes. When Buster Keaton said goodbye to the vaudeville circuit, the Keatons said goodbye to Muskegon. Eventually, the whole family departed to join Buster in California. But the community followed Buster's career with the pride of a parent for an adopted son. And the lure of Muskegon that attracted the Keatons and the other masters of vaudeville simply would not go away. Decades later, history would repeat itself with such leading lights as Diane Carroll, Vicki Lawrence, Paul Winfield, and Pat Paulson, and other leading lights of theater who found in Muskegon County a home away from home. So Muskegon carved its own generous slice of the clear, moonlit night sky where the stars came out and shone round the world. Homegrown stars like Buster Keaton, operatic singer Gwyneth Bean, gospel music legend Jimmy Dow. And then there was a minuscule, bantam-sized actor with a towering talent and the charisma gifts to charm generations of Americans. He graduated Muskegon High School and attended Muskegon Junior College before his talent took him away. It took him to Broadway, where he became America's golden boy. Then it took him to the movies. And finally, it took him to the television screen, where he became a nightly visitor in living rooms across America. He put the country in stitches in a show called Pete and Gladys. In Dragnet, he was Jack Friday's partner, just getting the facts. And in a show called MASH, he was Colonel Sherman T. Potter, father figure for a whole generation, part of a brilliant ensemble cast that wrung laughter and pathos from the dreaded subject of war. The world knew him as Harry Morgan, although that wasn't his name when he flashed that massive talent as a student at Muskegon High School in the early 1930s.
Harry Bratsburg, let's have him by his right name, okay? He was cute, he was handsome, he was talented, he was good. They say that he's a tremendously creative person. For example, when they would do a show, remember those shows when the show lasted 4 hours and the intermissions were 3 of the 4 hours? They'd send Harry out in front to entertain while whatever was going on backstage went on. And he went out and he just, it rolled.
But you didn't need a career in Hollywood to be a star in Muskegon. You only needed a story, a stage, and a box to store the tickets, and a group of people like yourself who lived for theater and performance and applause. In Muskegon, there was no shortage of such people. In the late 1930s, a group of them got together and formed a theater group. They called it the Little Theater. This wasn't professional theater with salary disputes and personal rivalries and power struggles. This was community theater. It was theater for the sheer love of doing what you were doing. And it set the stage for the next 6 decades. It wasn't necessarily easy. In the early years of community theater in Muskegon, plays were performed in a high school theater auditorium and performers prepared wherever they could.
We went wherever anyone would have us. From church basements to storage buildings to fire stations
They even rehearsed in the Hackley House, the historic mansion of a 19th century Muskegon lumber baron, because that was where director Wilson Cronenwit rented a room. It wasn't easy, but it was exhilarating, and it made for some interesting challenges.
And when the costumes came, we had to go down to the Hackley House and try them on. Now, I don't know if you remember, when you go in the Hackley House, in that foyer, there's the stairway that goes up on the right side, and underneath it is a stairwell, okay? Closet. And all 7 of us, young kids, boys and girls, got shoved in that one closet to put our costumes on. And everybody had tights on. But at 11, who really cared, you see? But nevertheless, I do remember getting my leg in somebody else's tights.
But they overcame those challenges, and under the guidance of directors like Civic Opera's Paul Schultz, they overcame the technical limitations of the time.
And I so remember him always saying to everyone, project, project, and play to that last row in the balcony, because we didn't have the sound equipment then. There wasn't the microphones on us or all around us. And I think that's where I got my great big voice.
Like those old-fashioned Hollywood musicals where a bunch of crazy kids got together and said, let's put on a show, these productions were capable of something magical. There was always room for the unexpected. Sometimes lightning even struck twice, as when a young Muskegon actress tackled her role in Death Takes a Holiday.
I was supposed to scream backstage, and I could not scream, so they got someone else to do it for me. And not too long ago, I was reading Lauren Bacall's autobiography, and she was in the same show and couldn't scream either, and had to have someone scream for her.
It was part of the long celebrated heritage of theater in Muskegon. The Little Theater proved theater could be done. Muskegon Civic Opera invested it with an unexpected degree of professionalism. Port City Playhouse provided an outlet for the explosion of local talent. Story Truck made theater mobile and brought it to children in neighborhoods across the community. And now, Muskegon's Civic Theater continues the tradition, presenting theater in an ever-widening circle of innovation and diversity. And the challenges? They're still there, although you may not wind up with a closet for a dressing room and your legs in someone else's tights.
Today, there's less time to do theater. In fact, there's less time to do anything now. It's difficult to cast a play these days. So by that I mean everybody seems to be working 1 job or 2 jobs or 3 jobs or something.
But people still find reasons to perform. It's still camaraderie and pulling together. It's still theater for the sheer love of doing what you're doing.
Be in any or all parts of theater that you can possibly be in. Pound it, nail it, paint it, sew it. Get to be an actor? Act.
Theater continues to change Muskegon. In the 1970s, the Michigan Theater teetered on the edge of demolition. Built in 1930, it was one of the most architecturally impressive structures in existence. It had been the site for the gamut of entertainment: silent cinema, talkies, Oscar-winning films, theater organ concerts, and even adult movies. Now it stood ready to succumb to the wrecking ball. But people in Muskegon knew what a treasure they had. They refused to let it go. The Community Foundation for Muskegon County stepped in. The old theater got a renovation. It became the centerpiece for a cultural complex called Frauenthal Center for the Performing Arts. Since then, it's provided a stage for classical, jazz, blues, opera, rock, and even the sound of silence. As it turns out, the spirit of renewal is contagious, and old theater made a comeback. So did the rest of downtown. With the 90s came a new development. In 1991, Cherry County Playhouse, one of the best-known and most respected summer stock theaters in the country, was looking for a home. It found one in Muskegon. The theater showcased such stars as Rita Moreno, John James, Paul Winfield, Ken Berry, Don Knotts, and Bob Keeshan, better known as Captain Kangaroo. Once again, Muskegon was a household word in the world of entertainment. History was repeating itself. The same qualities of nature and community that had drawn the Keatons and others to Muskegon at the beginning of the 20th century was attracting modern entertainers at the century's end.
When people come here, they'll like it. There's no reason not to like it. Most stars work in LA and New York, and they forget that there's a country 5 miles out of New York to 5 miles out of LA, and those are the people who like them. When people are warm and friendly, and that's what happens in Muskegon.
It is that quality, the feeling of community, that ultimately provides fuel for theater in Muskegon. Once they've seen Muskegon, how are you going to keep them away? Once they've had a taste, they all come back. Even Harry Morgan came back to film a commercial for breath mints at his old high school. It was history repeating itself. What made Muskegon a home away from home for its stars at the close of the 20th century were the same qualities that had brought the three Keatons to Bluffton at the century's dawn. In 1997, those qualities provided an attraction for a growing group of classic comedy fans. The Damfinos, the International Buster Keaton Appreciation Society, came to Keaton's adopted hometown. They came to enjoy a Keaton Film Festival. They came to pay tribute to his widow, Eleanor. And they came to unveil a marker in Bluffton, retracing the steps the three Keatons had taken 90 years before. It was a tribute to the old actors' colony, which had receded into history more than a half-century earlier. On the eve of the 21st century, the culture has undergone a transformation. You no longer have to leave the house for cinema. These days, the movies come to your home, and television provides one more compelling reason to take refuge in the fortress of your living room. A man's home is no longer his castle. Now, it's his multi-screen Cineplex. And yet, in Muskegon, they still flock to the theater. Once upon a time, many millennia ago, before human beings had so much as an alphabet to scratch in the sand, they shared their experiences by word of mouth. They gathered round the fire, telling stories, even acting them out. And in doing so, they established a connection. Some things haven't changed.
I have a reputation around town as being slavishly devoted to theater, and sometimes people sort of, well, and then I meet the deer hunters, or the golfers, or the whatevers, and I just, you know, blow it away, man, because I'm doing my thing. You do yours.
Well, with Civic Opera, it was the whole family feeling. It seems like theater is friendship, and everybody pulls together during the show.
On screen and on stage, the theater experience still engages us. It still draws us out. It creates a passion in us that some people find only natural and some find impossible to explain.
Oh, we just all love the stage.
There is still that powerful romance, performance, and applause. Muskegon and theater.
Hi, this is Ron Gossett. I'm here with Alberta Brown. We're here to say goodbye, but Bert and I are both looking forward to the next episode of Muskegon Heritage.